Hello gorgeous peeps and welcome to another nipple-poppingly thrilling episode of Tech Spurt Weekly, the TK Max of weekly tech news shows. You may not get what you came for, but at least it cost you f*** all. And after back-to-back Mediatek and Qualcomm summits, here I am finally back in Blighty. And the last time I left the country, I did come back to a butt-f***ed economy and our third Prime Minister in as many months. So, gotta admit, I was ever so slightly nervous disembarking that plane, wondering what absolute show would be awaiting me. I mean, I honestly had visions of walking down the plane steps and falling headfirst into a hellfire pit. And thankfully, touch wood, the entire country hasn't devolved into a giant garbage fire just yet. Although that would have at least solved the problem of expensive heating bills this Christmas. So yeah, here we are back to shooting videos in my pokey wee studio, but I tell you what, after all that travelling, it has been really nice to get back to my loved ones again. I've missed you guys so much. Mwah, mwah. Tech Spurt Weekly. So the big launch this week was the Vivo X90 series, a trio of Android 13 blowers that just happened to sport the exact same Mediatek and Qualcomm chipsets that were freshly launched in the States these past couple of weeks. Not to mention the kind of specs that will have you squirming in your seat for good reasons. The regular Vivo X90 is a 6.78-inch behemoth powered by Mediatek's fresh Dimensity 9200 chipset. The one that just launched out in San Fran 2 weeks back, which I covered while off my tits on airplane booze after 20 full hours of travel. And that was in Tech Spurt Weekly episode 131, so go check that out for all you need to know about the 9200. Fair warning, it does get a little bit slurry. Oh, and it does also contain at least one obligatory crotch shot. The Vivo X90 may be the least sexy of the trio, but it still serves up a punchy 120Hz AMOLED display, a 4810 mAh battery with 120W fast charging support, and a 50MP Sony IMX989 camera backed by ultra-wide angle and a 2x telephoto lens. Upgrade to the Vivo X90 Pro and you'll enjoy even lovelier specs, including 50W wireless charging for the ever so slightly bigger battery and a beefier telephoto shooter, although most of the other bits are identical to the Vivo X90. And then there's the Vivo X90 Pro Plus model, which again you would expect would be an incremental upgrade on that Pro, right? Whereas in fact Vivo said, f*** all, let's just throw it in the bin, let's just start again. So instead of the Dimensity 9200, this model is powered by its big rival, Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. That's the one that launched in Hawaii last week, which I covered while hanging out of my arse and wearing a bright orangey red bucket hat. So that's Tech Spurt Weekly episode 132, last week's episode, and again go check that out for all you need to know about the 8 Gen 2. But fair warning again, there's even more crotch shots in there and even a cheeky arse shot. As well as that Snapdragon SoC, the Vivo X90 Pro Plus also overhauls the camera tech. So now you have the crazy 1-inch IMX989 Sony sensor that was stuffed inside of Xiaomi's 12S Ultra, plus a 40MP ultra-wide angle lens, 50MP telephoto portrait sensor with gimbal stabilization, and a 64MP telephoto shooter with 3.5x optical zoom. That display has been upgraded to a Quad HD Plus Samsung panel with LTPO tech, and it's all wrapped up in an IP68 water-resistant frame with a snazzy leather option. So far so highly bonerific, but it's not all good news however, because the 4700 mAh battery ever so slightly smaller than its siblings, and you only get 80W wired charging with this bad boy. Still pretty effing good to be perfectly fair, and at least you do still get the 50W wireless charging of that Pro. And all of the Vivo X90 series smartphones will be available to buy in China in early December, and they should be getting a global rollout pretty bloody soon with any goddamn luck. And this week also saw Honor launching a bendy blower, the Magic VS, with its clever gearless hinge. This thing opens up to pretty much any angle, just like your mum, and impresses with an almost entirely knob-free internal screen. You got OLED tech inside and out with a 120Hz refresh rate for the 6.45-inch outside display, although the internal 7.9-incher tops off at 90Hz. A Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 provides punchy performance, while Honor has also found room in the Magic VS for a mighty 5000 mAh battery. That is a big jump over the 4400 mAh cell crammed inside of Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 4, and it'll keep on going for as long as you like, just like your mum. However, unlike your mum, the Honor Magic VS sadly isn't cheap. One of these fancy foldables will cost you around 900 quid in UK monies once the conversion rate is taken into account. Although that's still about £500 less than Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 4, so hooray for that I guess. So what do you reckon, fancy one? Well, you're gonna have to bloody import it from China, because once again, so far, no global launch. Bollocks! And that's pretty much all of the vaguely interesting tech news from this week, but we've got just about enough time for Tech Spurt's Super Black Friday Deal Spot. Tech Spurt Super Black Friday Deal Spot. That's right, kiddies, it's once again Black Friday time, which means you'll be spending all of that winter fuel money on plastic tat you'll immediately regret buying. And definitely do not miss out on this amazing cat brush, dog brush, Yeti dog grooming brush, slicker dog brushes for grooming, dog brushes for shedding tools for dogs, cat hair remover, cat grooming brush, cat brush for short long haired cats, which was $8.99 on Amazon, now reduced to just $5.59. Just imagine your pet could be as happy as this furry wee here. And that right there was Tech Spurt's Super Black Friday Deal Spot. Affiliation links down in the description below. Tech Spurt Super Black Friday Deal Spot. So now, yes, sadly, it is time for the part of the show where I eat more shit than a Godzilla-sized dung beetle. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments. And let's kick off this week with Dead N, who says, "Aloha to you, that outfit suits you." Ah yes, you must be rocking to the very brightly coloured garb I rocked in last week's episode out in Hawaii. Not entirely sure it did suit me. I mean, let's face it, has anyone ever actually getting laid while wearing a bucket hat? And surprisingly, there are a lot more compliments from you lovely lot on my choice of attire last week. James Spencer says, "Cooler than Vanilla Ice." I don't know, man, that dude did do the turtle rap after all. Go ninja, go, wiki wiki. I'm sure I had that somewhere on cassette tape back in the day. Gonna have to dig it out on Deezer or something later. Next up, Paul Stone says, "Finally you get to the subject of the video." Hey, to be fair, I think it only took about 2 or 3 minutes of pointless rambling. That's pretty good for me overall. And also, to be fair, at least I don't waste a couple of minutes at the start of every single video banging on about some VPN. Fancy having a wank but want to make it look like you're tugging yourself off from Estonia? Well, I highly recommend FAP VPN. It's the only choice when you're enjoying hardcore hentai that's outlawed in 50 countries. Next up, it's our great mate Oil. Hello Oil, how you doing, sir? He says, "I also hope you open a Travel Spurt channel." I mean, that would be bloody lovely, wouldn't it? I do get a little bit of the old green eye checking out guys like Stanley Tucci who get to bugger off to gorgeous countries and basically spend the entire time just gorging themselves on food and drink and generally fannying about and getting paid good money for it too. So yeah, hopefully one day I'll get a bit of spurting around the world on the go. That'd be bloody lovely. Next up, Smithia says, "Greetings from Romania, take care of your liver." Thanks. Yeah, I mean, as for taking care of my liver, I would do, but that's like trying to nurse a perfectly flat bit of roadkill back to health. But anyway, I hope all is jolly and well in Romania. Yet another country I'm yet to visit. I have to stick that on the Travel Spurt list. Next up, Shining Wizard said, "Is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 better than the Mediatek Dimensity 9200? Oh, here we go. I mean, it depends what you're ranking them on. So in terms of straight up benchmarking, you know, sheer grunt, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 beat the Mediatek 9200 in the likes of the Antutu and the Geek Bench scores. In fact, the Geekbench, the Dimensity got around 4,000 multi-core score, whereas the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 was more like 5,000 thanks to that extra performance core. Of course, personally, I don't entirely trust benchmarking, especially when you're talking about prototype devices rather than proper full-on retail models that people actually be using. And there's loads more of these chipsets to consider beyond just the performance, including the AI smarts, the camera shenanigans. But anyway, oh god, this is starting to sound like an actual tech news show. Quick, where's all the comments about leaky cocks and booze? 200 millisecond gaming says, "The phone companies never fully equip all of the features inside any of the Snapdragon chips." Yep, that's 100% true. It's entirely up to the OEM's discretion as to which features they actually use inside of the Snapdragon chipsets. If they are using a Snapdragon chip, quite a lot of them end up using their own third-party alternative solutions. And again, this is way too serious. Can someone please just ask me the easiest way to remove stubborn skid marks from your undercrackers? Stefan de Medici says, "Uncle Spurty, did you have a chance to check out Oppo at the conference? I was going to get the Fine X5 Pro to replace this ancient Huawei P20 Pro with horrendous screen burn. P20 Pro though, what a classic. The Fine X6 Pro looks like it could be well worth the 4-month wait while I continue to ruin my eyes on this prehistoric POS." I didn't get the chance to catch up with Oppo out in Hawaii, sadly, but you're right, the Fine X6 Pro should be a classy bit of tech, certainly from all the leaks from our great mate Yogi Bear. He popped up on Twitter a couple of weeks back quoting a whole bunch of possible specs, including the new Mediatek X2 processor for even better low-light photography, and that Sony IMX989 camera sensor which has been fine-tuned to work smarter with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which should be stuffed inside of the Find X6 Pro as Yogi suggests. So yeah, so it looks like the camera tech is the big upgrades here with the Mediatek X2, etc. So if that's one of your priorities, looks like the Find X6 Pro could be the one to go for. Next up, Flamin' Hedgehog says, does the word Snapdragon mean anything? Isn't it an insect? I believe it's a flower, a snapdragon, or some kind of plant anyway. Although Qualcomm used to have an actual cartoon dragon in all of its marketing shiz, which I haven't seen in a while. I'm not sure if they've given it the axe, but if they are after a fresh new mascot, I'll definitely have to recommend Mr. Wangsock as a possible replacement. Get all those sweet royalty checks in. Buy your Snapdragon! If you don't, you're a massive fanny what wets the bed! Flamin' Hedgehog continues, on a side note, on seeing that bucket hat, I had a strange desire to put on some Jamiroquai. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, man. Whenever I get a strange desire to throw on some Jamiroquai, I just punch myself in the dick over and over until I stop being so strange. Jim Bob says, but will the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 be in the next Samsung sold in the UK? Yes, thankfully they have confirmed that they will not be using any more of that Exynos bollocks over here. So the fresh new Samsung Galaxy S23 series, all of them, should be launching globally with that Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. No more of us Brits getting shafted with some Exynos donkey. GJ Wright says, hopefully the Sony Xperia 1 Mark V will be a lot less hot with the Gen 2. Yes, I was rather quite upset when Sony decided to stick with the original Gen 1 chipset for the Xperia 5 Mark IV instead of upgrading to the Plus model, because those phones got so bloody hot. And speaking of not being able to pay your winter fuel bills, basically just turn on one of those buggers and stick it in your pocket and it will toast your marshmallows all winter long. GJ Wright continues, speaking of gaming, have you played Goddess of War Nikke? I have not, but I will do a bit of a Googles, see what this is all about. Okay, so I can't find a Goddess of War Nikke, but there is a Goddess of Victory Nikke, if that's the one, which is apparently an immersive sci-fi RPG shooter. A little bit of everything. A story that offers both thrills and chills. Oh, 2 for 1. Baz Anime says, forget the tech news, what flavour was that muffin? That would be chocolate chip, my friend, the superior muffin flavour. And oh my god, I love US muffins so much, because not only are they twice the size of the ones you get back here in the UK, but I guarantee if you buy a chocolate chip muffin in London, it will contain precisely 1.5 chocolate chips. Whereas these things, Jesus Christ, they're like 80% chocolate chip. Chocolate chips so big they could choke a barracuda. Baz continues, oh, and your opinions on England's chances this World Cup? I mean, if you'd asked me this a week ago, and you did ask me this a week ago, but if I'd actually bothered to reply to you a week ago, then I would have said probably minimal at best. You know, I'd say we'd quite happily get out the group stages and then fumble away to maybe like quarter or semi stages. But actually having seen the likes of Argentina and Germany and then just be absolutely frankly, does make me think maybe we've actually got a chance this year, who knows? But to be perfectly honest, I'm not really that bothered, it's just another excuse to get twatted all afternoon long. Although, as Jennifer points out, give the World Cup a miss, they're banning beer sales in the stadiums, lol. Yeah, I mean, it's been an utter capitulation on all fronts out there, hasn't it? I mean, FIFA just needs to hang its head in shame. So frankly, I'm glad I'm not out there. If you're out there watching it, then, you know, stay safe and everything. I'm quite happy just perched on my sofa with a can of warm beer. Ray Foster says, I'd like to see you review the beers from all of the teams in the World Cup, 2 at a time in the group stages, from each country that's taken part. That's a really solid idea, mate. The only tricky part in that would be just picking just a single beer to represent each country, because take the UK, you know, we've got a massive growing beer scene here. We've got all the old classic ales, we've got, you know, brand new microbreweries pumping out some pretty awesome craft lagers. Pretty much anything your heart desires, but guaranteed we'd end up being represented by something like Colin, because that would be the most popular beer, because you can get a crate of the bastard for a tenner. Rand seems to have quite a few breweries, surprisingly. It looks like the best beers there include Zam Zam Star Lemon and Zam Zam Star Peach, as well as Ali's Coffee flavour. Gotta say, they also are absolutely f***ing rank, but I will reserve judgment until I actually try one. In the USA, it's a toss-up between Bud Light and Coors Light, naturally. Ugh. I mean, either way, it's a tough call on who wins between them, Colin, and a pint of warm piss. In Wales, it looks like apparently the most popular brand is Brains Ale. A pint of brains, please. Sounds lush. I think that one would win for me personally, because I do prefer a pint of ale over, you know, a pissy lager these days. Anyway, massively running out of time here, and my back is well and truly going as well, so let's make these the last couple of comments. Richard Middleton says, currently have a Samsung Galaxy S20 Fan Edition, looking for an update, but a shame that most don't have an SD card slot. Which newer handset would you suggest to replace? Yeah, unfortunately, most smartphones around that sort of £500 price point, they tend not to come with micro SD memory cards these days. The only ones I can think of that have expandable storage or slightly more upper tier, the Xperia smartphones. But definitely go check out my pick of the best mid-range smartphones right now for an idea of some really good strong alternatives. Otherwise, the likes of the Pixel 7, fantastic blower. And last up, K. Richard says, I can't wait to see you get 1 million subs. Aye, we are terrifyingly close now, like, it's absolutely ludicrous. A bloke who just bangs on about tech in his garage and who has a crusty sock with eyeballs for a friend. 1 million. Madness. But I love each and every one of you buggers, and a massive thanks to everyone who commented last week. Apologies if we didn't get to yours. I do try and read through them all, even if I don't manage to reply to them on camera. Always good fun. And please do smash your comments down below, and we'll try and cover those, as many of those as possible next week. And speaking of next week,
this is about next week.
Not a whole heap going on by the looks of it. I've got a couple of top secret things I can't talk about because they're under embargo, but hopefully be able to reveal all soon. Don't worry, plenty of stuff going live on the channel as always though, and of course this time next week, more Tech Spurt weekly shenanigans. So have yourselves a wonderful weekend, whatever you're up to, and please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell if you haven't already. It'd be very much appreciated, and have yourselves a lovely weekend. Did I already say that? I really do not know how to end these videos. I'm